Am I Wrighster or am I wrong? It's your boy George Wrighster with my main man Ralph Amsden. Great things on track for you today. Hopefully we can keep you entertained and informed as well. The Mavericks owner Mark Cuban, he has reversed course on not playing the national anthem before games, and we need to figure out what happened to cause this to transpire in 24 hours. Trump's second impeachment trial is going on. Will he be convicted, and should this even be going on? The internet wants a pound of flesh for all the people who made Britney Spears' life hell at the turn of the century. I went full Karen in Costco, and of course, all our social media highlights, including Aunt Jemima Syrup, Linsanity, and the Super Bowl streaker. Am I Wrighster or am I wrong is the intersection where sports, business, society, and pop culture meet the truth. And absolute Monday, Wednesday, Friday fire. Facts only. Check your feelings at the door before you even show up, because no BS is allowed. We keep it 100. Make sure that you share the podcast with a friend. If you're watching it on YouTube, however you are, share it. Most important thing, tell other people about it. Leave a 5-star rating wherever you listen to it. Thumbs up, all of those sorts of things. And of course, you can get a hold of us. Shoot us an email. I'm Mad, IMMAD @unafraidshow.com. And you can listen to me, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Monday through Friday, 10 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. Eastern Time, and Fox Sports Radio Sundays, 2 to 5 p.m. Pacific, and both me and Ralph on the Pac-12 Apostles podcast as well. So, Ralph, I guess we'll start today with Mark Cuban, because I couldn't help it. So yesterday when the news was announced that Mark Cuban, that he wasn't playing the national anthem at Mavericks games, it hadn't been all season, and he was like that he wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, cool. But, and I mean, I had more thoughts about it, but what was your take on it when you first heard it?
Part of me was like, man, this is going to be way more controversy than I'm wanting to experience in that lull after the Super Bowl is over. Like, can you just give us a week before we get back into the kneeling and the flag and someone bringing up Kaepernick? And I just need a couple of days off from us going round and round and everybody saying the same thing always. But before we could even have that reaction to it, the NBA just slammed the door on the entire thing. So I'm not sure what I think, man. I'm a sports reporter. And so there's some of these, like, okay, how about this? Martin Luther King Day basketball tournaments where you like go to an arena and 8 high school teams play in a row.
Yeah.
On my 8th national anthem, I'm like, all right, well, I think we're good of the day. You know, like the fact that it's played before every sporting event. I mean, that's not like canon. That's not it, like nobody in the world thinks that anybody who shows up 5 minutes late to the game is less of a patriot because they weren't there to stand for the national anthem. I'm not sure. I don't know. It's just such a weird thing. If you really take the time to think about it, most people don't want to think about it at all. They just say like, yeah, it's the flag. I respect it. I'd rather do it. And then I never think anything else about it. But you kneeling is making me think about it. I'd rather not think about it. So I'd rather you not do it.
Yeah.
But for everybody else, you know, if you're one of those people who just kind of questions everything, the national anthem before sports thing, the but why of it is never really something that can be answered clearly, because at the end of the day, at the very end of the day, you get to the point where you have to realize it's somebody else that decided that this was good for you.
Yes.
And you should have the opportunity to say, you know, is it? As with anything in the entire world, you should be able to question everything and kind of take each thing to the end question, which is, why do we do this? What does it mean to us? And if it doesn't mean something to somebody, are they a villain?
Yeah. See, all right. What Mark Cuban did, he decided to cut the baby in half. He said this is a problem for people who the players who feel some sort of way about the anthem, and this is a problem for fans who don't want them to have a problem with it. So he was like, "Listen, I'm eliminating the problem. This is like when kids fight. When my kids are fighting, if they're fighting over the PlayStation, I take the power cord. There's nothing to fight about now. Now you guys can be mad at each other about being mad at each other. I mean, about the fact that you guys were so silly to get in a fight over this that it turned into this. And as a black man, no, go on.
I just, but what you have to be careful of in that instant of like, because it's one thing if there's a legitimate beef between your kids when they're playing the video games. It's another thing if they just both woke up on the wrong side of the bed and all of a sudden you take the controllers and that energy gets directed to you. And I think we've reached such toxicity just over this issue in general that instead of getting people to shut up, all it does is direct all that energy on every side to Mark Cuban. Now he's on the receiving end of it, and is it worth it?
Okay, so I think it was worth it for him. I think it made sense because he said he was siding with his players and saying that he wanted to respect how they felt about it and all that, and side with them because these are the people he's making hundreds of millions of dollars off of their backs, and it'll be billions whenever he sells the team, and he wants to honor them. The issue is that there are some people who will say, well, players shouldn't feel like that about the flag and that they're not patriotic. Here's the thing that people really have to realize is that you can have love for America, love for your country, and still feel that at times you are not treated fairly and that things aren't right. Because as a black man, I love being an American. I love my country, all these things. But the truth is, I've been followed around in stores. I've been pulled over for no reason, harassed, and those things are not cool. And those are the things that have happened to me. And when you think of things that I know of that have happened to other people and friends, family, those are the things that become very upsetting to you. So, and when it comes to history, right? As a black man, I do not know my history. I don't know what country my family's from, any of that. And unless I did my ancestry DNA. So I got quote unquote some information. But then I remember a couple years ago, my son had to do a history project. They had like multicultural day at school. And they were like, okay, talk about some of your family's customs and traditions. And I was like, what? Customs and traditions? My customs and traditions are football, apple pie, and Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Like, I don't know. I mean, if I'm a Jewish American, I have history and customs. If I'm you're part Native American, your family has customs and traditions. If you're Japanese American, same thing. If you're Iranian, whatever, that and know your history. I know nothing. So when my country doesn't treat me right, it makes me feel some kind of way and about the anthem. So yes, I can be conflicted, but still love my country.
Yeah, I mean, I feel interesting about it because, like, if it's part of knowing my history is knowing that my dad is from the Northern Cheyenne Reservation, and that my mom's family is from Arkansas, and I'm afraid to dig back too many generations on the Irish folks side. But like, I will say that it was always interesting to see how one side of my family reacted to tradition and how the other reacted to tradition, and it's completely different, because my mother adopted what my dad's traditions were. We never did Thanksgiving really growing up. We went to Shoney's once and ate turkey, but other than that, when the fireworks holidays, Independence Day and stuff like that would usually be spent going to a powwow on the res. So, and still doing fireworks and everything like that. But your focus on that day is completely different. One group is celebrating its heritage, and another group is celebrating the creation of a new heritage that impinged on the heritage of a few others. And so, the weirdest thing about it is, when it comes to the national anthem, there's just something lacking within it to where people can pledge their allegiance, can sing about the formation of the nation, or listen to somebody else sing. And there's no part of it that acknowledges the strain and struggle. It's talking about the strain and struggle of war, but that this formation of a new country would be all about strain and struggle going forward. There are songs you sing in church like Amazing Grace, which within the first sentence, you're having to acknowledge that you're a piece of shit. Like, it's in sentence number 1. Like, isn't grace amazing? Because let's get this out of the way. Let's be honest, I suck hard.
Yeah.
So, and then there's nothing about our anthem that's just like, hey, we were incomplete, we're still incomplete, we're progressing.
That's
and
the
I think
part
that if
makes
that
it
was
feel like
part of
propaganda.
it,
and I think that's where we're missing in the country, is the divide between people is that some people are like, this is the greatest nation in the world. Okay, I can believe that, but also say it sucked too. Like, it wasn't great for everybody, and we need to find a way to make it great for everybody. That doesn't mean that you don't love the country. And here's what Mark Cuban said. He said, we respect, and I've always respected the passion people have for our anthem and our country. I've always stood for the anthem with my hand over my heart, no matter where I hear it played. But we also hear the voices of those who do not feel the anthem represents them. We feel they also need to be respected and heard because they have not been heard. The hope is those who feel passionate about the anthem being played will be just as passionate in listening to those who don't feel it represents them. It's simple. It's simple. It gets magnified into this all or nothing thing. That if you say our forefathers, in terms of the forefathers of the country, that they formed an amazing nation, the most powerful nation, land of opportunity, all of that. But then also say that they were morally bankrupt at the same time in some areas. That is okay. That is okay to say that. That doesn't make America less desirable. The fact that you can admit that makes America more desirable. Because it's like, listen, we did all these things wrong. And we still have systematic racism and all this, and we're going to fix it because we are America and we can do great things. Okay, cool. I'm on board with that. But it's the fighting and the consistent, like, make America great again. It wasn't fucking great. You can't say it's great when it's not great for everybody. A great thing, if I have, a brand new, I don't know, a brand new anything. If I have a brand new bike, this is the greatest bike that ever's been built. But I don't have any damn pedals. Now I don't have a bike. The bike's not as great as I thought it was because it's not complete. So you can be a work in progress, still working. I would rather be working on my bike and saying, listen, we're working on the bike. We're doing all these things instead of saying, oh man, that bike's great. No, it's not. And that's okay. So at the end of the story, direct question. Okay. Do you think they should play the anthem? Because for me, I'm like, they don't play it at all concerts. They don't play it at all sporting events. It feels sometimes like propaganda, but like, I don't have a feeling either way. For me, I'm like, if an owner of a team is like, I don't want to play it, I'm like, cool. If they do want to play it, I'm like, cool.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think everybody should be okay with what everybody's choice is. I remember when Chris Jackson, who became Mount Abdul Rauf, would sit for the anthem. I remember that caused a lot of interesting discussions. I was in
Got him
elementary school
blackballed.
at the time. Yeah, and that was really the first debate over all this, because he would sit for the anthem and he had some pretty pointed political reasons for why, and he wasn't shy in talking about them. And I remember as a kid just being like, okay, and that was it. That's all it had to be. You have that choice. You have that choice to just be like, all right, even if you don't see where somebody's coming from, you could just acknowledge that they are different. You don't have to sympathize and empathize to just acknowledge. And I think and when somebody wants to sing the anthem even louder because they feel like that makes them even more of a patriot, and they do feel a huge swell of pride and unity and community in that moment, my reaction to that is, okay, cool.
And
good for you.
Yeah. And I'm a person who has probably supported our troops more than our servicemen and women, probably more than most people. I've been to 20 plus bases around the world, giving up my time, not being paid, all of these things, like sleeping on cots with wool blankets and in dangerous places, because I thought it was important. It was important to me. So if anybody wants to say to me, "Oh, you don't care about it," no, I put my money and my time where my mouth is. And anybody that said, like, that's the part that makes me upset, is that these people will like pay so much attention to flag worship and players kneeling, forgetting the reason why they're kneeling. They don't want to address that. But then make it about our servicemen and women, but then they don't have that same energy when our servicemen and women are dying out in the streets, killing themselves, not getting their benefits when they're supposed to get them. Like, where's that damn energy? Like, where's that fervence that you're willing to go to battle? That you're willing to say, I'm not watching sports, I'm not doing this, I'm not supporting this. Where's that same fervence and energy for something that actually matters? For these same people that you say you're defending, you don't defend them.
I don't think it's hypocrisy. I think it's the same. I do think it's the same energy. It's a little red hen syndrome. Like, people always get excited to share in the fruits of labor, whether it was theirs or somebody else's. So the ability to go to a sporting event and sing this song with pride is part of being able to enjoy the fruit of that labor. Saying that you support the troops or donating money or any of those other things, or clapping for them when they're brought out on the field or whatever it is, like that, calling that support. That, again, that's more fruits of labor. There are a lot, for a lot of people, if you actually believed in the anthem so fervently that you're willing to have this argument, that's one of the things that I usually ask people is like, did you serve? Did you enlist? Like, you believe it to the absolute core of yourself, but not to the point where you actually live those values out.
Boom.
And for some of them, it's just like, well, no, I'm about this because that's what my parents were about, or somebody in my family did serve. And everybody's reason is different. Nothing is monolithic. There are people who sit for the anthem because they're aggressively against it. There are people who sit for the anthem because they don't feel like it represents them. And those two things aren't mutually exclusive. So I just think it's important to listen. And again, you can acknowledge somebody without necessarily agreeing, or there's this amazing phrase is, well, that's not the way I would do it.
Lord.
And when you say that's not the way I would do it, you acknowledge you are one of many, that's just that. I don't know where we got to the point where you couldn't just say, oh, they do a thing that's different than me. Because and I think that I'm not a both sides person, but when you talk about both sides of this issue, like, it is important to acknowledge. And I think that people actually do a pretty good job of acknowledging, like, oh, this means something to you because you feel like it actually represented you. When Francis Scott Key wrote this in 1812, which is the year, I believe, the White House, which was partially built by people who were enslaved. That's the same year that White House burned. This isn't from the Revolutionary War. This is from the War of 1812. When he wrote that song, and one of the stanzas said "Land of the Free," that didn't necessarily include everybody.
Exactly.
But by the time the Navy decided to use this song in 1889, there were people serving in the Navy, and to them, that's after the Emancipation Proclamation, and to them at the time of actually adopting it as a naval song, maybe they did feel it was inclusive of everybody. And if that was a history that everybody at the time
vote, dude, no way, dude. People couldn't. It's only
I understand
been
that
50 some odd years since there's been even equality on paper. I
understand
you couldn't even vote. But speaking of voting, though, Trump's second impeachment trial is in its works. There was just a vote yesterday that paved the way for the formally opening their arguments and cases on Wednesday. And the vote addressed the constitutional question of whether the Senate has the power to try Trump, even though he's left the office. The vote was 56-44. So you had 6 Republican senators, including Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, Susan Collins of Maine, Murkowski of Alaska, Mitt Romney of Utah, Ben Sasse of Nebraska, and Toomey of Pennsylvania. But ultimately, for him to get convicted, they need 17 Republicans to go over, because assuming that all 50 Democrats are going to vote to impeach him, convict him of the impeachment. And the thing that stuck out to me is how this whole impeachment works, right? Because we're so partisan and in this country at this point in time that you're sitting there like, hold up, this impeachment trial is like a regular trial, except half the jury either was complicit in the crime, didn't say anything about the crime, or still committing the crime. And then the TV networks have those same people on to talk about the crime. And then you have, it's so conflicting because the people who are supposed to be on somebody's side, they don't care about the truth. It doesn't matter. They've already decided the majority of them, how they're going to vote. It's not a fair jury. This isn't representative of America. I do not understand.
Yeah, when you talk about a vote to decide whether or not a proceeding is constitutional, how many of those 100 senators do you think spent the night before the big vote studying the Constitution in
Zero.
relation? Yeah, exactly.
Zero.
And I was thinking about that earlier today, of just how absurd it is that we operate under this system that where if something is constitutional, it's canon, it's uniquely American, it's allowable, it's truth, it's truth. We actually get to the point where we think constitutional means absolute truth, right? We assign a level of divinity to this document, and it's the rights it affords to us and its amendments and everything like that. And the thing that makes me laugh is that what is or isn't constitutional is just this abstract thing that you can decide on a whim. You're asking senators to vote whether or not something is absolute truth, and the vote comes out 56-44. Imagine having 100 people in a room and you hold up a red ball, and the fact that it is a red ball is absolute truth.
Yeah.
It's absolute truth. And you ask the room to vote, is this a red ball, yes or no? And they vote yes, 56-44.
That's what happened. And
what does that tell you?
And then you expect them to go back and actually vote at least 67-33. And here's the thing is that I believe
Waste of
that
time.
I believe that the GOP that they want to keep Trump away, but they don't know how to do it without because he bullied them around. And they don't like that because people in general don't like to be feel like that they're not in control. And I think that he bullied people around and that created issues for them where they're like, listen, I don't like that. I don't want to be a part of being bullied around. So then, so then they want to keep him away from running again in 4 years. And part of that means that, yes, they would upset some of their base, but they're trying to figure out right now what's worse, upsetting their base or protecting themselves. Like, can they do both things? Or if they upset the base, will they have enough time to fix it before their election?
I think votes should be private because it's not a vote on legislation. So we don't need to necessarily know how we're being represented as a people. They're supposed to be voting on whether or not something is constitutional or a crime. We don't get an account of what a jury says unless they want to go public with what their vote was. Or
Mm.
if it's unanimous, you just get to assume every person on this jury voted a certain way. But if it was 11-1, then you don't actually get to know who that one is unless they reveal themselves. And when we're talking about did somebody commit a crime that is so serious that they need to be barred from public office, that's not a, hey, how does this affect New Mexico legislative order? It's an issue of crime and punishment and accountability. And so, first of all, I don't think we should get to know the vote at all. That way, if it wasn't a serious enough issue, then they wouldn't probably have some of these proceedings that they have. I felt like back in the day, Bill Clinton's impeachment was more to just get a vote on the record to whip up the moral majority. But when it comes to Donald Trump, especially this second one, I fully believe that if the vote was private, that you might have a legitimate shot at 67-33. But like you said, there would be Republicans that are finding him guilty just because they don't want him to run again, just the way that some of the Democrats are going to vote to find him guilty just because they don't want him to run again. Because if you're being honest, George, this is kind of a hard case to make without him giving a specific directive to people to go out and commit a specific act of violence.
I don't. I don't see it as a hard case to make because, all right, it would be different if the Capitol riots were the only time that people took up violence, right? And do you remember when those people were chasing, where those Trump supporters were chasing the bus?
Yes.
And he came out and tweeted, "Oh, I'm proud of Florida. Like, that's how we do it." And like, those are things that stoke the fires. And he knew what was happening. Proud Boy, stand back, stand by. I don't think that you have to explicitly say this, right? I don't think that you have to explicitly do it. It's almost like when that girl got convicted of telling the young man to kill himself. She didn't pull the trigger. She didn't make him sit in that car and gas himself. What would he killed himself with carbon monoxide?
I think so, but she also didn't. She also said you should do it.
He told them, go to the Capitol. I'm coming with you. Don't stop fighting. All these, like it's almost like you go up to the line of deniability.
And that's what he did. That's what he did. He, in every situation, that's what he did.
Yeah, and but you as the leader of the free world, right? Mind you, as the leader of the free world, it's a different responsibility. And if you know that people are taking up violence in your name, it is your responsibility to say, do not do this. Do not do this. This is the, like, if people were like, if it's, a regular person, right?
Yeah.
then no. But if you are a leader, especially the leader of the free world, so if I'm the leader of my son's football team, right, and we're playing flag football, and I know that they are going out there, like, we get penalties every game for hitting kids, right, for tackling them, all this stuff, and I, when they come back to the huddle, I'm like, hey, yo, good job, man, good job. But then publicly, I'm like, yo, we're gonna fight, we're gonna go get them, we're gonna do this and that, and then they go do it. Who's responsible? It's
Okay.
me that's responsible. It's
Okay.
not. It's like, yes, the people are responsible for their own individual choices, but as the leader, I am then responsible for what happens underneath me, for the people who follow me, especially if they listen.
I suppose here's what I would say. Here's what I would say. And let me be Donald Trump's lawyer for a minute and do what should have been done right away. Which is, one, build the foundation that we all understand that Donald Trump is on trial to be impeached right now because he has explicitly incited violence. That's why he's on trial. We could all agree to that. And we could all agree to point number two, which is this man has no filter and he says whatever comes into his head all of the time. So we're here on those two issues that we can all agree on. This dude says what he means what he says, and he's willing to say whatever whenever there is no filter. And two, that he's the one who did this. Okay, so that would mean that you are saying that if he really wanted this to happen because he says what he wants all of the time incessantly, then you're going to be able to find 100 examples of him saying, go into the Capitol and attack lawmakers. So that's what you're telling me, that it would be everywhere. But what do we have? We have the opposite party trying to tell you, if you squint, you could really make this about this. And if we agree that he says what he means, how come we have to squint?
You don't have to squint. It's literally sitting right in front of you. Mind you, and I'm a person who can make a case like, nope, I used to play around in the margins all the time with my words and all that. So I get it. But you do have to say, all right, that when you have people taking up causes in your name and you know what's happening, you can say, oh, I didn't do it. Well, the other part is that you didn't stop it, which is another issue. If you are the president of the United States, you're the most powerful man in the world. There is responsibility with power. So like, excusing someone of not wielding their power properly, that means that you shouldn't be allowed to hold public office. Because if you can't figure out in your brain, just like girl that Marjorie Green, who they just took off the committees because they're like, yo, this lady's batshit crazy. All right, and she can't be leading anything. The same exact principle applies. If you can't govern or figure out in your brain, oh wait, hold up, this led to this. This is leading to this. Let me not do this. No, he knew that it was going to rile up his supporters and he thought it was going to get him elected. And then when he didn't get elected, he thought that he was like, all right, cool, I'm going to burn it down. I'm going to let them do this because this is my vengeance.
But at the end of the day, you still have to make that assumption. So here's the thing.
So what do you think? No. Hold on. So logically, what do you think?
I am prepared to answer this question.
Okay.
I am prepared.
What do you think that the things that he said led the people to do what they did at the Capitol behind that bus? The Proud Boys then making their shirts stand back, stand by, the Oath Keepers, whoever else. Do you think that the things that he said and did not denounce and all of this cause those, and what he said that particular day on the Capitol too. I'm going with you. Let's go fight all of that. Do you think Ralph Amsden that's what got the people to do that?
Of course. Of
Thank
course.
you.
But that's not the issue at hand.
That's the issue at hand.
Okay, let's make it relatable. Both fathers, okay? One of our kids comes to us and they say, I am being picked on at school. It is relentless. It won't stop. It's happening every day. It's affecting my self-esteem. I feel like I can't make any friends. I feel like physically threatened, even though nothing is necessarily like right happened, but they pick on me and they pick on me and they pick on me. The thing that we were grown up, that we were always taught to do ourselves and then ultimately hand down to our kids is at some point you have to stick up for yourself because
Yes.
or nobody else will. And it has always been very important the way a father has that discussion with their son or daughter. And sometimes mothers are having this conversation too. Sometimes they have no choice but for it to be a mother. But traditionally, when you see this in popular media and when it's happened in our lives, this has been a man-to-man talk, man to young man talk, man to young woman talk. So you say, look, if you don't stick up for yourself, this is going to keep happening. Okay. There's never been more importance in your relationship with your child's life than in how you phrase how they're going to go out in the world and deal with somebody else.
Yeah.
There are some dads who in that conversation will say, you need to punch him in the fucking nose. Right? Like that's
my conversation, but yeah.
Right. That's extremely, extremely explicit. And then there are others who say like, look, you have to learn to stand up for yourself, and they leave stand up for yourself completely undefined. You take your child's word for it that they're being picked on, and you say you need to learn to stand up for yourself because the world could continue to be like this. You got to be able to stand on your own 2 feet when you're feeling oppressed. Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you leave it up to them to decide what that means. Now, in your head, someone is bullying your kid and you hope your kid punches them in the face. You hope that it happens. You absolutely disdain them for what they're doing to your offspring, and you hope that it happens. But you didn't tell them to go do it. So when it does happen,
hold on.
And you didn't stop them. You're right. You didn't stop them. But the issue is, did you tell them to go do it and they did it, or did they misinterpret you?
See,
and that's where Donald Trump is trying to live in this situation. Just because he hoped it would happen and just because it wouldn't have happened without him doesn't mean that he implicitly caused it to happen.
All right. So you gave a perfect example with the father and the bullying, right? But here's the part that you left out. You made it seem like this is a singular conversation. When parents have that conversation about bullying, it's typically more than one. They stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Conversation. It's usually been modeled on some level.
Yes. And to your point, here are 5 examples of exactly what you're saying. If you beat up those protesters, if you handle those protesters, I'll pay your legal bills. Remember that from when he was campaigning?
Yep.
So right there, that is something you consider an act of actual incitement, and that probably helps set the tone. The number 2 thing is that when confronted with QAnon, even though he said he has a very good brain, even though he said that he is the person that was ordained to have this job because of his extreme intelligence, even though he's seeing the letter Q at all of his rallies, he's asked, what do you know about QAnon? And he says that they're like anti-pedophilia and child trafficking. Doesn't mention that they believe that all of these other people drink blood. Like, says that he actually does not take the opportunity to dismiss the idea that we're actually in a flesh and blood battle, not even spiritual battle, flesh and blood battle against vampiristic pedophiles. Like, so he doesn't push back against that. So there's some allowance there. Here's a third one. 4 years of going to rallies, even continuing rallies after you won, immediately after an election, in which the crowd would chant, lock her up, as in take away the freedom of and imprison Hillary Clinton, your political rival. Lock her up. And did he ever stop them from... Okay. Here's another one. I'm going to read you. I'm going to read you a quote. This is a very interesting quote. At Donald Trump rallies, you meet people from all walks of life, colors, etc. It was fun. It became like a newfound drug. Going to rallies made me feel like I'm no longer a loner. If you weren't at a rally, it was all over social media, TV, radio, and Twitter. The more they happen, the stronger my resolve to continue to advertise Trump's message to make America great, safe again. Do you know who said that quote?
Who?
Caesar Sayoc, the Donald Trump bomber who sent pipe bombs to like every major opponent. Of Donald Trump
to make it safe. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So we actually had somebody that tried to blow up and assassinate every single one of Donald Trump's rivals. So the hint was there 2 years. Of violence was there. Did he go out of his way to say, hey, anybody who thinks like Caesar Sayoc, that's a huge problem. We don't want that. No,
exactly.
No, he didn't do that.
Because
and then the
he
last
knew it
example
was happening and he liked it. Okay, go on.
And the last example would be absolutely what happened with having to get coaxed to say that this shouldn't happen. The other side is not. Is the violence taking place, acknowledges that it's violence, acknowledges that it's wrong, acknowledges that it's their side. Then he says, I get where you're coming from, but you can't do this. Then the third example was him saying, we love you.
Yeah.
To them. So his three immediate reactions after the fact, and even while this in the process of going on, because there was no intelligence to say that the storming of the Capitol would be the last thing that happened that day.
Correct.
He didn't take the opportunity to say that it was wrong in those moments. So, like, those are some specific examples that would
imagine if they didn't put all that damn security at the inauguration.
Yeah, and even then, didn't necessarily do the best job. But there is a bunch of very specific examples to where he was aware that there was a brewing violence and did absolutely nothing to stop it. But you're going to have to prove that even though he wanted it, even though he did nothing to stop it, that he actually caused it by doing more than being permissive.
If you are the leader of the free world, you are responsible. Like this absolving of responsibility when you know what's happening. It's lame. It's lame for him. It's lame for anybody. And it's not just him. It's when people say, "Oh, well, I didn't know that." Yes, you did. You damn lie. So, anyways, next.
One thing before we go that I will say that this would be really, really hard for me to get away from as somebody who didn't have my mind made up about this. When I'm saying that I feel like it's going to be impossible to prove, but I'm also acknowledging that I 100% believe that this is something he's responsible for. When Donald Trump said, and this has been proven a million different times to be a lie, but when he said that he saw thousands of Muslims dancing on rooftops in reaction to 9/11.
That was a lie.
Right. We've established that it was a lie. But what did he mean by it? Did he mean that people who desire something bad to happen but don't participate in that bad thing happening should be viewed as criminals? Was that his point? When he tells this story, when he tries to villainize this specific set of people, I think that should be very, very telling that Donald Trump, in his own mind, in telling that story, in his rise to political legitimacy from being a reality TV star and a real estate mogul, he's somebody who believes that if you were celebrating the idea of something happening in the immediate wake of it happening, does that make you guilty? Does that make you violent? Does that make you culpable just for agreeing with the idea? Because that's who he is in this situation. That whole thing that he was talking about was completely made up. But this is real. In the moment, he's saying, we love you to people who actually stormed the Capitol.
Yep.
So apart from whether or not they're going to be able to prove it, I think the more interesting argument is, on some level, does Donald Trump, with some of the things he's said and done in the past, does he actually carry that belief in him that he caused this to happen? And I think the answer is yes.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know if he. I think he knows. I don't think he cares. I think that's a different argument. Right. And now on to the next thing. The internet. This was a Ralph topic, which I saw it going around social media. And I haven't watched Framing Britney Spears yet. But the internet wants a pound of flesh for the people who made Britney Spears' life difficult. And this is at the turn of the century. We're talking like 2000. Her dad, Justin Timberlake, the paparazzi, U.S. Weekly photo director, Kevin Federline, Harvey Levin, Sam Lufty, and
Diane Sawyer.
Yeah.
And Diane Sawyer trended all day yesterday for something that happened a decade and a half ago.
Okay, so bring me up. So I know that her dad has her conservatorship, won't let her have any freedom. She can't manage her own money despite making so much, which I think is absolutely just a disaster to begin with, that a judge keeps giving him all this power over her when she's 39 years old or something like that. I think that's absolutely, or however old she is. I think it's crazy. Like, you should be able to make your own bad choices or good choices. Like, your dad can't govern you your whole life. Like, you're not an invalid.
Yeah. So the free Britney movement is having its moment in the sun right now. And this is going to sound controversial, but like, it's not that much different than QAnon in the way that it actually works from day to day. People watch Britney Spears videos on Instagram and look at her tweets and the things she favorites. And then they try to like piece together this thing of like, is she actually making a cry for help? Did she snap 2 times in this yoga video because someone posted on Reddit, Britney snapped 2 times if you need our help getting you away from your dad, Jamie Spears. So I've been watching this happen for a while. And it always kind of reminded me of QAnon because there's a lot of people that were always just searching for things when Britney Spears has every ability to just like go live on Instagram and address it, but she never really does, even when she commented on it in the last day.
Yeah, but can she though?
So that's the free Britney. So that's what you're doing, the exact thing. And so I've been watching it for a while and not really completely fully invested or understanding, because then to ask questions, you end up dealing with these same people who are super wild for a pop star in her 30s with documented mental health issues and everything like that. So this documentary gets put together and it really gives a voice to some of and it just encapsulates everything, and it's really meant to capture your attention and then manifest rage. It's a lot like the Coney 2012 type thing. Like, it's having its moment right now.
Is this like Surviving R. Kelly, the version of that for Britney Spears?
Yes, kind of, but like you know what they have to build. You have to operate on the assumption, because this wasn't done with Britney Spears' approval or anything. You have to operate on the assumption that she is in a position that she does not want to be in. Like, she's being held against her will in some way, shape, or form. And so they have to piece the puzzle of how she ended up in the situation in which she's being held against her will.
But she clearly is. If she just tried to get control of her own money and be able to perform, but she can't even perform. She's a musician who can't perform.
Right.
And can't control her own money. Like, what? I don't
All
understand.
Of that is an issue. All of that is an issue. But we're sort of building this multi-pronged thing of like, let's blame 98 different people for her issue. So like, let's get mad at Justin Timberlake for how he acted in the wake of the end of their relationship. Well, like
he made Cry Me a River because she supposedly cheated.
That's part of it, of like cashing in on it, when we know now in retrospect the damage of all of the weight of these things over time, including late night comedians, including interviews from Diane Sawyer in which she was held to a different standard than maybe somebody else. And it's all the story of how we elevated and idolized somebody and then threw them away, which is just sort of something we culturally do over time. And the whole thing with this Free Britney movement to me is nobody's taking any personal responsibility. Do you know what magazines are still the top sellers in every grocery store? It's
US
the tabloid,
Weekly,
right?
Yeah.
It's it's the nonsense. Those magazines aren't selling themselves. Those magazines didn't sell themselves.
They're
back
like
then.
Drugs. It's
the people in the audience at these late night shows when they would crack Britney Spears shaved her head jokes. That's still us. It was still us then. We're still doing it now. The really weird thing that was happening the other night is Britney Spears was trending and Britney Matthews was trending. And Britney Spears was trending because everyone was talking about how toxic society was to her back then. And Britney Matthews was trending because a bunch of salty NFL fans who were mad at the Chiefs' success think it's funny to call her ugly. She's Pat Mahomes' fiance. So, like, one woman is trending and her name's Britney because the entire world is making fun of her looks. And another woman, Britney Spears, is trending because everybody's sad about how Britney got treated 2 decades ago. It's still us. We're still the same people. We're still doing the exact same stuff. We still roast everybody. Fame is still a terrible, terrible, non-natural thing that will take you through the cycle of, like, we need to build something up just to tear it down.
People, a lot of times your talent, God-given ability takes you to places that you're not mentally, spiritually, and emotionally ready for. And that can be in sports and entertainment and music, whatever the hell it is. It can catapult you into the limelight and into fame that you weren't ready for, that you don't have all the tools ever like ready for. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Did you see the toxicity? Oh, Toxic, Britney Spears song. There you go. Did you see the toxicity in the coverage back then? Because she's basically your age, right? Like pretty close.
Yeah.
So you're watching someone similar age become a god in real time, right?
It's unbelievable. It is unbelievable to see because I've seen it. You know, like I've seen it. I've seen it with some people that I've played with, who I've known, actors, like people I know that all of a sudden you're just like, oh, okay. Then all of a sudden you're like, whew! Like, whoa, yeah. I can't even imagine. So, but if it were
did you have an issue with it at the time? At the time, no. Being somebody who was her age and seeing her on magazine covers shaving her head, seeing all the coverage about the Kevin Federline
I was like,
marriage.
yo, she's losing it. I mean, like, it was more sad to me than anything. Like, it was less sad than funny because for me, I was like, she's really going through it.
Right. But did you feel the weight? Did you feel at the time, like, if someone told a late night joke about her or she was on a tabloid, were you saying like, oh, this is the specific thing that's going to break her and we should all do something about it?
No, what I thought is she's already unraveling. This is going to make it unravel even more. Like that's what my thinking about it was. I mean,
right. I think I was in the same place. Like, oh, this can't be good. Like, she's a human being. This is probably terrible. And there was a whole South Park episode about this. About how it's like a Children of the Corn thing, to where we need someone to build them up to then take them back down again. But I remember at the time being like, oh yeah, this is bad. Why would we need a reminder? Like, it's still bad now, but we're the ones consuming it. We're the ones purchasing it. We're the ones laughing about it. We're the ones, like, late night jokes are still about celebrities who do bad things or misbehave or get in the news. Like, nothing about any of that changed at all. Like, you have to look at your own behavior when you're talking about any of this. But we're going to get mad at Justin Timberlake and Diane Sawyer when we're the ones who made that song #1, and we're the one who made that Diane Sawyer broadcast ratings hit.
I'm not getting mad at Justin Timberlake because people get upset at breakups. People make breakup songs all the time. Like, that doesn't make you a bad guy. Just stop. I mean, for everybody else, yes, some people exploited the situation. You know, it just sucks. I hope that she gets herself together and that she's allowed to make her either own good or bad decisions. Now it is time for one of my favorite segments that we'll do every episode is our social media. Well, the best of social media since the last time that we saw you. And since the last time that we saw you, here are the best things that we've seen on social media. The first thing is this guy right here, Ralph. This guy right here. When I first heard this story, I thought it was a lie. This dude claims that he bet $50,000 at plus 750 that there would be a streaker at the Super Bowl. He bet $50,000. And he ended up winning allegedly $375,000 and then had to use $1,000 to bail himself out. And that's what he won. And I'm sitting there like, When I first saw it, I was like, okay, yeah, right. But then I thought about it because ordinarily sports books and stuff like that, like they discourage cheating. But he didn't cheat. He bet that there would be a streaker. It doesn't say specifically, like I went and looked on a betting site, it doesn't say you can't be the streaker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe that it's true. I don't believe that it's true. I think he was part of the Vitaly Zodorovitsky. He's like a Russian YouTuber who has done a lot of these things, like streaked at a lot of different games and everything like that, and gotten people to do it for him. And his website was actually on that guy's pink Speedo, pink Borat Speedo or whatever he was wearing. Yeah. So I don't think he actually won money. I think that's just a way to get more publicity for the logo that was on. Like I'm sure they got lots of web traffic, and it's like a Girls Gone Wild type thing. So it's basically like a guy who did YouTube pranks and then turned into kind of a pornography prankster guy. And so, yeah, you had advertisement for a porn site on the field of the Super Bowl. The guy already took credit for it. I think the money story is just something to keep it in the news a little bit longer, because why would you say anything about it? Like, why wouldn't you have somebody come collect on your behalf? Like, why wouldn't you keep it under wraps? So, I mean, if that ends up being true, that's incredible. And I'm sure you'll see a lot of changes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Next thing up, Tom Brady. Tom Brady won the Super Bowl. Super Bowl victory parade. Here's what he does.
Big old boat parade.
This dude has the trophy.
No!
Throws the damn trophy to somebody.
Touchdown.
These are random. He threw the trophy to randos, Ralph. Are you okay with that? It could have sunk to the damn bottom.
Yeah, I mean, I have to do a little bit of a callback on this one. Like, if that dude doesn't have to respect the trophy that everybody spends working all year for, then you don't get to get mad at what somebody does during the anthem. Like, I'm sorry. Well, I would say, I will ask you this, George, because you have 5 kids. If you had 2 more, would that make you more likely to toss the youngest one from one boat to another? Is it just that level of experience?
Hell no, man. No. I mean, you do let your youngest kids probably get away with more than you do your older kids. But hell no, man. I'm not tossing a kid from one. Hey, he's got 7 Super Bowl trophies. He's like, hey, here, I'll just throw this one.
But wouldn't people be more mad if that was Nick Foles and his one, like, substitute Super Bowl trophy, and he was the one that was cavalier enough to chuck it from one boat to another? You think the reaction would be different than a guy throwing his 7th and us just assuming, oh, like he's at that point where these aren't as important?
Yeah, I don't think the outrage would be as, but it's funny though. It is funny. The next thing up in this social media roundup, Ralph found this video. So I saw it on when he retweeted something, but I didn't quite understand because he tweeted it in reference to the Pac-12. So I didn't fully understand what the hell was happening. Here's the video. This is a robbery. The car on the right, the black car on the right, robs the Prius in the middle. And we're trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Like, so they pull up underneath the underpass. This is in San Francisco. One guy hops out of the car in the other car and then like smashes a window in the back and grabs something out. No shootout, no nothing. And we're trying to figure out what the hell was in the bag. Because you don't just randomly just snatch a bag out of somebody's car.
Right. It did look like a little bit too like daring of a thing to just be like, hey, I see a backpack in the back of this Prius. Who knows what it could be? It could be socks.
And it just so happened to be filmed too. Like, it's weird.
Yeah, I guess that's a Tesla onboard like camera, and they just record or have the option to record. I don't know. Okay. You have a Tesla, I know. And so that was that story anyway. But I, the thing that made me laugh the most about it wasn't the video, because the video is pretty wild. It was the extremely negative reaction toward the state of California in the replies. It was just a bunch of Californians tagging the San Francisco district attorney and saying like, "You let this happen." Or
What?
people tagging Gavin Newsom and saying, "You wanted this, like this is what you built." And I just thought to myself, I'm like, man, don't let anybody ever tell you they don't stereotype. Because if people are willing to get on here, see one isolated video of one highway heist and say like, oh, this is definitely what everyone was trying to turn California into. If they can get online and they can throw it out the window, that like every critical thinking skill out the window to say like, this represents all of California and the leader's desires.
Okay, so what was in the bag?
When they see somebody of like a minority community or something like that like, those are the same people that say, oh, that's every one of those. That's what they do. And like that. So the reaction was dumb. What's in the bag? I'm gonna say cash or weed, right? Like California.
Yeah, I know people who transport weed, right? Because they own or have some sort of stake in a dispensary or work with them. They don't drive around in armored cars. They move money, hundreds of thousands of dollars sometimes, just in a regular car, because it is like, you're not gonna think that somebody has 50 pounds of weed in the back of a Prius. You're not gonna think that they got a couple $100,000 riding around, and they're usually going from point A to point B, somewhere super close. They're not going to stop anywhere, and nobody should really know, because they do it at different times, different cars. Like, you just shouldn't know. So it would have to be an inside job. So I think that this is a case where they were transporting either some money or some dope. But actually, if they were transporting illegal dope, like if they were transporting heroin, cocaine, something like that, there would have been a shootout. They would have got out of the car and shot at them.
What would concern you more as a citizen? Finding out that this was just targeted and somebody needs to up their security and someone was taken advantage of for being lazy, or that like these kids like random anarchy? What would make you more concerned?
The random anarchy. I mean, drug dealers get robbed, so.
Right. So wouldn't you take comfort that like, if this crime's going to exist, at least it was like a crime of targeting and opportunity and not just like the movie Joker coming to life.
Yeah, where it's random. Yeah, absolutely. The next thing up, Aunt Jemima Syrup has turned into the Pearl Milling Company. We all know the story that Aunt Jemima was being retired as a racist figure, apparently, and now she has been replaced by the what's that? What's it called again? The Milling Company, the
Pearl Milling Company.
First thing, Pearl Milling Company still sounds racist as hell. Like, could you come up with a better name, like Happy Pancake Syrup? You know what I mean? Like, Log Cabin sounds fine. First of all, I don't eat Aunt Jemima Syrup, first and foremost.
Right.
So it didn't bother me.
Right.
I don't eat Aunt Jemima. I don't eat Miss Buttersworth. Nothing that has high fructose corn syrup in it, am I putting in my mouth, because only real grade A or grade B, whatever you prefer. If it didn't come straight out of a tree, if it has more than one ingredient, it's not going on my pancakes unless I'm like at a friend's house. Like if I went to Ralph's house and he made pancakes and he didn't have fresh syrup, I'll tough it out. But if it's anywhere, I'm not going to a restaurant and ordering pancakes and they don't have real maple syrup. Not happening. Not happening.
Okay. It's just funny to me to picture a situation in which like a friend comes up to you and be like, hey, they're finally doing something about Aunt Jemima. You'd be like, damn right. Like, finally. But you mean something completely different. You've been trying to get rid of her forever, but it has nothing to do with like race or minstrel shows or stereotyping. It's just because it's a bad product.
Yes. Kaden, like, come here.
That cracks me up. I like that syrup. I will defend
You like that syrup? Come here.
I will defend the product. I will say that
here's my 9-year-old son, Caden. Would I ever eat Aunt Jemima syrup?
No.
What kind of syrup do I eat?
Regular maple syrup.
Thank you. And what do I want you to eat?
Regular maple.
Thank you. And but these kids. So my wife will eat. She'll eat Aunt Jemima, Miss Butterworth. So we have a fight. So there are some things that she does not want in our house because she's like, it's bad for the kids, blah blah blah. But then she puts this garbage in there. And then she'll say, oh, well, no. I need you to make sure that I have it because I don't like real maple syrup. And I'm like, what kind of hypocrisy is this?
So are you just upset because now you have to be mad at a whole new syrup name?
No, dude, it'll be fine because now it looks like a generic brand and nobody's going to want it.
It does. I want to ask you one question, though. The actual pancake on the bottle, there's like a slight difference between the two. I think the pancake looks worse. Can we at least come to an agreement there?
Okay, hold on. I'm gonna zoom in on the pancake. Hold up.
Like the Aunt Jemima pancake looks fluffy and like delicious. And,
they did make the pancake look worse.
Yeah, and the Pearl Milling Company one looks like Lego pancakes.
Hey, you are 100% right. And I'm the same way about honey too. I'm not, if you go to, like if on the times where we do go to like, Popeyes or something, I'm not eating that honey sauce either. Not happening. Only real honey. And half the time we only have Manuka honey in the house too.
I don't even know what that is.
You don't know what Manuka honey is?
My honey is shaped like a bear. I don't even know if it's real or not.
Oh my God. Dude, we buy unfiltered real honey, like straight from the, and sometimes we actually have real honeycomb here too. So then you can pour it off the honeycomb?
Honeycomb's the cereal. I eat that.
No, actual, not honeycomb's the cereal. Honey on the comb. Good God, man. Oh, the last social media thing that we have. Do you guys remember Linsanity? When Jeremy Lin had one of the greatest 2 weeks of any athlete ever. Well, today's the anniversary of when they played against the Lakers and they played against Kobe. And does anybody remember this interview?
Who's this kid? Yeah, I've heard about him and stuff like that, but I don't know what is he been doing? He's getting like triple doubles.
Stuff.
Oh, he went from the bench. He went from
28 and 8 over 3 games.
He's averaging 28 and 8.
Well, 25.
Stuff.
But he went from the bench to that, basically. So it's sort of coming out of
I
nowhere.
saw last year his best game was against you guys. He had 4 steals against you guys. I just looked to see if he had any good games last year. He played like 15 minutes against you one game. I don't remember.
If he's playing garbage, we're obviously going to have to deal with him.
Would you consider guarding him if he's having one of those games?
Jesus Christ.
Asking Kobe if he would consider guarding Jeremy Lin. What? Yeah. Kobe, would you be interested in taking on the challenge of Jeremy Lin? And I remember this because it was one of the most incredible games that you would ever see.
Don't let him put it down on the floor. Lin likes the open floor, spinning, puts it up and back. I would have thought, and Jeremy Lin would be first in line saying, I'm in the star comparison chart with Kobe Bryant. Out to Lin. Lin fakes, pull-up jump shot. Knocks it. Hole is on Lin. Crowd wants him, puts up the two-pointer, puts it in. Jeremy.
Dude, the crowd was absolutely going nuts. And
I stood the whole game in my living room. I never sat down. That was so much fun. That's a top 10 fun sports moment for me.
Dude, he had an unbelievable 2 weeks. Like people thought that Linsanity lasted a long time. It didn't. It was 2 weeks of awesomeness. It was what were his totals?
Oh, I think he had like several over like a 20 game stretch. He had like 9 games over 20 or something like
Yeah.
that.
So it started 2-4-12 against the New Jersey Nets. 25 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists. Then came back with 28, 2-8. Came back with 23, 4-10, 38. 38,
Kobe wasn't guarding him
4-7.
in any of those clips, though, so none of that was on Kobe.
Yeah,
that was all on Derek Fisher's head.
Dude, it was incredible. This dude just put up 20 points, 27, 30. And you're just like, how did you manage to do this in 2 weeks? But he really kept it on through the end of the year. He only had 3 single-digit games for the rest of the season. He was starting. He was the man. And ultimately, that led to Jeremy Lin. You realize that Jeremy Lin has made over $65 million in the NBA. This kid who was barely hanging on became a phenomenon. And that's not even imagine the fact that he's an Asian in the NBA balling. Can you imagine the amount? I bet you he's made more than that $65 million in endorsements.
Well, don't even think of it that way. Think about the amount of money Jeremy Lin has made for everybody else. Because being Taiwanese at that time, blowing up the way that he did in New York, taking it to Kobe in Game 4, keeping it going, and then being a promising free agent and cashing in on it and getting to play in the LA market and the Houston market that used to have Yao Ming, and just the interest that was generated in his path in the NBA. Think about the amount of money it made for other people down the line.
Oh my God. Dude, yes, absolutely. Dude, he got everybody else rich as heck. Yeah, so I think that's it today, right? Oh, no. I forgot to tell my story. So I went full Karen in Costco. So I was in Costco, and this is a few months ago. I haven't told anybody this. You know how we always make fun of Karens for telling on people for doing things that they're not supposed to do and all this. And mind you, I'm a coronavirus believer. I wear my mask. I try to do all this stuff to keep myself, family safe, all these things. So I'm in Costco. And I walk in and I see a guy walking Costco with no mask on, right? I'm not tripping. I'm not that type of person. And I was like, okay, he must have forgotten it. Because I'm a person, I've forgotten my mask before or forgotten it in my pocket or something. They're like, oh man, let me put it on. He walks into Costco. And mind you, this is maybe November or something. Some places have changed their policies, all sorts of things. But I live in California and in the LA County, so I know what's popping out in these streets. So I'm walking and I'm in the back of Costco. In the back by the meat section and the wine. And I'm walking by and I see the dude again. He still doesn't have his mask on. Costco employee. Mind you, I did not seek a Costco employee out. A Costco employee crossed my path. And I said, hey, excuse me. I was like, do we still have to wear masks right now? And she was like, yes, why? And I was like, because I'm just curious because that guy doesn't have one on. And so she walked over to him, and as soon as he saw, she got about 5 feet away from him, and he turned and saw her. Then he pulled his mask out of his pocket, and she was like, sir, can you not? And he was like, well, I don't think I should have to wear it, but I'll keep it on. So I went full Karen in Costco. Am I wrong here?
Okay.
I mean, I'm a black guy. Can I actually be a Karen?
I think that you had the warm-up question, right? So let's get to that. You had the warm-up question of all right, so let's check to make sure that when I snitch, it's going to be effective. Because if she had said actually we just got rid of that, you would have let that guy alone.
Correct. I would have left him alone.
You wanted to make sure that that you were fully in good standing when this went down. And in your head, the possibility also exists that she could have just seen it and said something if she had noticed him when she walked by you.
Correct.
But you guided it specifically.
Yes.
So what you're saying is that this current Congress would find you guilty of incitement.
So I'm a black man. I can't be a Karen, right? Or was that not even Karening? Because
isn't there like a racial component to
Yes.
Karening, either like an entitlement issue, or the one that I see the most is wanting to put somebody who they feel superior to in a conflict with authority.
Yeah,
because
or they're like, you don't belong here or something like that.
Yeah, because they know their status protects them in the eyes of authority. So like they're basically just illustrating the power imbalance. I believe I'll be protected by authority. I believe that you will not be. So I don't think that in those strictest terms, I don't think that you would fit into being a Karen. But
Okay.
I mean, I would say like extremely passive aggressive.
But was I in the wrong?
No, because the part of me that just wants to say like, hey, man up and tell him yourself, also realizes
I didn't want a conflict. That was
right,
the
yes.
reason why I didn't say
Yes.
it myself was because I didn't want him to jump bad with me, and now I have a situation that I'm going to have to deal with.
Here's the only scenario in which I would say yes, you're absolutely wrong, is if you sent her over there to have the conflict herself, and while she's walking over there, you pulled your phone out of your pocket, pulled up the record
Started
screen,
filming.
and got ready.
I did not pull my phone out. I didn't pull my phone out.
Okay, then I think your heart was in the right place. You're trying to protect your space because you got a family and his ultimately. But no, if you were gonna film it and you just wanted the conflict for conflict's sake, then yeah.
All right, you guys are listening to Wrighster or Wrong. I'm George Wrighster. Hope you guys enjoyed the